Hello, good morning everyone. Happy Sunday.
Hey, I'm pouring my coffee.
So we're pouring coffee, I'm drinking tea, and I just want to say happy Sunday to everyone out there. This is another Music Emerging's Inspiring Talks. And I'm so happy to have my friend John Kruth.
Hi, Cynthia.
Yes,
thanks
hi.
for having me. What a great place you have.
He was just serenading me, which made my morning. You know, I wasn't having such a great morning, but that's one of the things I like about you. You're so colorful.
Well,
and so you're just like a ray of sunshine.
Oh, God. Okay. Good night now.
But, so I just want to say before we start that Music Emerging is a website I created that provides emotional support for people in the music industry. And we all need that. Everyone needs that, but since I'm a musician and that's what I'm doing right now, I thought, okay, I'm going to provide that for other people in the music industry. Not just musicians, but it's all a big ball of stress. Would you agree? That the music industry.
Oh yeah, it's like juggling a couple of balls of stress, you know.
But we're broadcasting live on the Music Emerging Facebook page also. So welcome and happy Sunday. Hopefully we're live. Usually someone's tuning in.
Cynthia makes really good coffee, by the way.
Well, someone taught me how to do that.
Nice and strong.
Yeah.
Just what you need at 11 in the morning on a Sunday.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah. It's the little things that get you by, right?
I used to have a good song about coffee. That was a big song for me at one point in the early 90s.
Okay.
People like coffee.
Oh yeah. You know, it's a legal drug.
Yeah, I'm completely addicted.
But anyway, again, to introduce my guest, John Kruth. I met John through a shared gig, I believe.
Oh.
At the Spoke Bicycle Cafe.
Oh.
So we both had some crazy kind of, I'm going to say avant-garde instead of weird or strange gigs.
Oh,
It's an avant-garde gig. We'll just call it that.
Performance art, for sure.
At this cafe in Los Angeles.
I'm glad that gig led to something.
I think that's where I met you.
That's great.
But you're bi-coastal.
I am.
So he's often in New York City and then
I'm
comes to
more
Los
here
Angeles.
Lately. It's funny. It's like
I noticed you've been here more
like
lately.
the weather.
So we've got Cherie Davis. Do you know that person? Cherie Davis.
Oh.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, we're gonna see all sorts of people tuning in that you might, they're gonna be
I have
new
to
fans.
put my glasses on to see.
So, what were we just talking about before the live
The
stream?
Spoke Cafe.
Right, but before the live stream, you were telling me your story about performing in Siberia, which was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I call you a Renaissance man because
thanks, but I'm not very good at math and science, and you have to remember.
Yeah. That was an important part of the Renaissance.
And I think probably what we really don't know about the Renaissance are the great recipes.
You don't cook?
Oh, I do,
Okay.
but imagine Leonardo da Vinci's spaghetti recipe. We don't know what it was, but he probably was a phenomenal cook as well.
Probably.
So,
Cooking is a science.
Oh, and a passion and all of that.
Hi, Dave Plan.
Who's that?
Friend.
Howdy.
But with your music, you've been playing mandolin. John plays like so many string instruments.
Well, it was just Brian Jones's birthday yesterday. I think he was born on a leap year on the 29th. And it was really Brian Jones initially that set me on this path.
To playing music?
To being a multi-instrumentalist. And I think I learned how to get dressed off of Rolling Stones record covers too, their style to me really, Brian and Keith, that really spoke to me. I was like, okay, so that's how you get dressed. And Brian's multi-instrumentalism was, half the reason to buy a Rolling Stones record. Here he is, he's playing marimba, and then he's playing sitar, and then he's playing recorder, and I had to learn how to play recorder in grade school at some private school that my parents sent me to. And then all of a sudden I'm hearing Ruby Tuesday and realizing, oh, the recorder's cool. You can use it for, like, you know, it's all color and palette and how you employ these different sounds. And then I heard the incredible string band, and Robin Williamson used to always say, well, just have a go with it. Just have a go, you know? So it was like, okay, you know, I used to drive...
Because it can be very intimidating.
Oh, yeah. I was intimidated by other stuff, but not by musical instruments, you know? And not by people telling me that it sounded bad or that I didn't know what I was doing or I wasn't playing it right.
Because people told you that?
I never play any instrument correctly. Maybe I play rhythm guitar correctly.
I'm self-taught too.
Yeah.
I've gone through the same ordeal.
I mean, I had a flute teacher. My parents said...
He plays flute very well also.
Thanks. One of my earliest instruments, actually, before I heard Jethro Tull and Traffic and everything, I heard Rahsaan Roland Kirk, who I wrote my first book about, because my sister had a really groovy beatnik boyfriend who played jazz when they used to make out. And and you know, and I really loved Herbie Mann, and I thought, wow, I didn't have a beard then, but I thought, wow, you even kind of look like him. And I had a flute, and my father was a sergeant in World War II, like a flute, you know, that's a fairy's instrument, you know, it's like my son, like the fairy, he was like, you know.
Right.
So, okay, you can get a flute if you take lessons. So...
That's awesome. So you got flute lessons.
Yeah, I went to Mr. Quinlan, who was in the Philharmonic, the New York Philharmonic. And so what do I hear? I hear Charles Lloyd playing Autumn Leaves.
I used to sing that song in my swing band.
So, yeah, such a beautiful...
Love that song.
Right, and his interpretation of it, it's very breathy and breezy and all of this stuff. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. And I take
How old were you when you were influenced by a song like Autumn Leaves?
12. Maybe
That's
12.
incredible.
So, well, my mom really loved big band music and sang a little while with Larry Clinton's big band in New Jersey during World War II. It was part of the mythology.
I remember my grandparents listening to that music, and I loved it myself too.
Well, I had mixed feelings about it because, you know,
it's all white.
Well, no, I was a kid and it was Dylan and Beatles and the Stones, and I wasn't ready for Frank Sinatra and that stuff yet.
Right.
But I go to the teacher and I say, here's the record. Put this on. I want to play just like this. And he goes, no, you don't. And I was like, I knew that was my last flute lesson with Mr. Quinlan from the New York Phil. I was like, no.
Yeah, those classical guys, you know, could be a little,
because
not as open.
Yeah, so I mean, something innately told me to steer clear. I could steer clear of like teachers at school that I knew were not the right people. My father was a really tough guy. It was, making music for me was an act of rebellion. One of the reasons why I had a mandolin was that I wasn't allowed to have an electric guitar in the house. So I had a mandolin. After I heard mandolin, and I would practice up in my room and close the door, it was quiet. Nobody was complaining about it.
Right. Mandolin is definitely considered more folky and safe, I guess, back then than an electric guitar.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, I saw Ringo on Ed Sullivan when they played, and it changed my life. I mean, John was cool. He was kind of riding a horse while he played, you know. And Ringo, I never saw anybody having that much fun in my life, and I wanted a set of drums. My parents were absolutely not.
Right.
You're not getting a set of drums. And then, okay, I want a guitar. It was like, okay, eventually I got like you know, old Gibson folk guitar.
Right.
Learned Bob Dylan songs.
And then from there, you obviously left the nest and just explored everything on your own. And
yeah, school for me was like, I go into the band room and pick up.
Is this in high school or college?
By junior high school.
Junior high school.
I'd pick up a clarinet or I'd pick up a flute, you know, and whatever it was, I played cello for like, you know, 3 months or something, and the teacher was so excited because he thought he had a cello student. But that was just because the Beatles had Strawberry Fields and dun 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 dun
Oh,
dun,
yeah.
dun 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 dun, you know, and I was like, okay, I learned that lick. That's all I wanted to do.
And the Beach Boys.
Beach
Brian
Boys.
Wilson with that cello.
Yeah,
or
the
Pet
Beach
Sounds.
Boys were funny because, you know, when Pet Sounds came out, that was 65. I was 10 years old. I wasn't really ready for it until I was about 15 or 16. And then Caroline completely floored me one day when I put it on. And I was just like, oh my God, this is one of the most beautiful sound vibrations in the universe.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, I wasn't really, the Beach Boys seemed square to me when I was younger. They weren't
Well, that was the impression that they were kind of made to create.
Yeah.
Until
they weren't as cool as the Kinks. To me, the Kinks were like, Ray Davies was like, I mean, I don't know if I would have been a songwriter without certain people, Ray Davies, Mose Allison. Because they were kind of like novelty songs because the language was so hip, you know, and it was like, maybe I could do that. You know, Dylan was Mount Everest. Beatles were Mount Everest. Stones were Mount Everest. Some of these other guys were like more like Mount Washington or something. Maybe I could get up there. Maybe I could get up there, you know. I could hike up there or at
Yes,
least
you can.
drive a car
Yes,
up
you
there,
can.
you know. You know, I'm still trying Mose Allison and Ray Davies there, you know.
So one of the things that, you know, I find fascinating about you and your music, it references so many travels that you've done, and you've done a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? And then
Well,
I guess traveling, you discovered different instruments and met different
Well-
people, and you go to Italy a lot. You've made an album in Italy, or maybe several, right?
Well, I mean, the last one, I even brought it. Look, it's an object. It's an object.
Is that a cat?
Yeah. My friend Mary
Aw.
Jo Daniels, that's her cat. What was that cat's name? I think it was
Aw.
Claudio.
I mean, this is good marketing because, you know, everyone loves cats.
Oh, and if you look really closely, dandelions, it's a double exposure.
Oh,
Dandelions
wow.
are growing
That's
out
very
of,
cool.
Weeds and dandelions are growing out of his
man.
head.
This is great.
And there's a song on there called Checkers with My Cat about playing being alone and playing checkers with your cat.
So travel, like, how did you start traveling so much? Because that deeply affects a musician, I think.
Yeah.
traveling.
Oh, yeah. Really. It's funny.
And you play a
because
lot of world instruments.
I do. Well, you know, I dabble in those.
Right.
I'm not.
He dabbles, but believe me,
I've
it's
been playing.
good.
I've been playing sitar for like 12 years now, and it's so unforgiving. It's like if you don't pick it up and love it
It's a monster.
every day. Yeah, if you don't pick it up and love it every day, it shows. It's like violin or trumpet. Those
Right.
are instruments you have to play
Yeah.
every day. And I wasn't going to be that old hippie dude that played sitar. Eventually, one wound up coming to me. And I got to the point where, you know what, I really don't care what people think. I really don't care. And there's something about the posture when you play that instrument, and there's something about that vibration that is unlike any other vibration that I've ever made on any string instrument or flute.
What's it like?
It makes me feel good. It makes me feel okay. It makes me feel at peace. It makes other people feel at peace. It really, I don't know enough about the science of vibration. And sometimes it sounds like a lot of hooey. But there is something that happens with the sitar that
And it's
I've
considered
never-
a spiritual instrument
it
in
really
India.
is one of the most incredible experiences I've had in life.
I mean, I've never
The
held a
banjo
sitar, that's why I
is
was asking.
really good too. The banjo is a whole different thing too. It's really hard to be depressed and angry while playing a banjo. It really is.
I need to get one of those.
So, oh yeah, you're a finger picker, right?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, you really should. Just have a go. Just pick it up and, you know.
See,
like,
that's the thing. I would never say that, have a go. It's like, I would not even know. I would be so intimidated by a new stringed instrument, even though I play a stringed instrument all my life.
Here's the thing.
So I love this. It's going to be inspirational to me.
When I was back in art school in Minneapolis in the 70s, I played mostly guitar and mandolin and blues harp and flute. Those were the main instruments I played, and I figured that's enough. I don't really need any more. And I loved the Byrds. I loved so much of what the Byrds did. And one of my favorite things that McGuinn did was like the Moog Raga, I think it was
Roger
called.
McGuinn's amazing.
I think it was called the Moog Raga. It was like on Notorious Bird Brothers, I think. Or Jack Tar the Sailor, where he took a traditional Irish Scottish folk song and he did these drones on Moog, and here you have Ancient Future, you know, all the old folk music with Moog. And man, when I heard that, I was like, that's great. I got to get a banjo, because like the further back you go, the more. Sun Ra was like that. So, Pentangle even had a certain amount of, the further back you go, the more ahead you come out somehow.
And, you know, you can kind of think of it as for going further back, simple.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't, like I always think music, learning music and learning an instrument, it has to be complicated.
Oh.
But you can do a lot of simple things. And it's, like you said, it's the vibrations. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah.
You know?
So I got the banjo. I'm in Minneapolis. I'm at a guitar shop, and I'm playing, and some guy comes in and goes, "Guitar player?" I go, "Yeah." Actually, he goes, "Stick with the guitar." And for some reason, I listened to that jerk back then and stopped playing the banjo for a really long time. And then sometime in 2000, mid-2000s, I ran into Peter Stanfill from the Holy Modal Rounders, who I adore the Holy Modal Rounders.
No idea who that is.
Oh, wow. Well, okay, we'll talk. And the Holy Modal Rounders were like an anarchist folk duo from Manhattan earlier, around the same time that Bob Dylan got discovered, early 60s.
Okay.
Except they took old folk songs and they changed the lyrics. And they were all anarchist and sex and drugs and dope and all this wild stuff. And Peter was kind of a hero to me at one point, and then became a friend and a guy that I collaborated with, and we worked for a while, and then we didn't. But he's an amazing banjo player, amazing. Mm-hmm. And he plays everything really super fast, total speed freak.
Right.
And
which is what we associate with banjo most of the time.
And he was like, he has a voice like this. And he's like, you gotta get a banjo, man. We gotta play like two banjos together. And so like I got a banjo, and I didn't really know what the hell I was doing with it. And then I had a dream. Mm-hmm. And in the dream, I was playing the banjo, and I was laughing. Mm-hmm. In the dream, I woke myself up laughing. Now that's always one of the greatest feelings in the world, when you wake up laughing, you know, or wake yourself up from laughing. And so I'm playing the banjo in my dream. I'm like, that's it. And you got to sit down with this thing every day until you just figure it out. And then it happened. Yeah. It just kind of happened. And I have my own weird thing that I do on it. I went to see Tony Trishka, because he's one of the greatest banjo players in the world. And I said, Tony, is this all right? Am I okay with it? He's like, follow your own weird groove. Yeah. You know? And so I did, you know, and I love playing the banjo, and I've written certain tunes on it. I don't have a banjo with me, but I have a song that I wrote on it.
Well, let's hear it.
Well.
Yeah.
All right, so
we've got mandolin, guitar today, and harmonica. So Tom's going to play guitar tune.
So I wrote this on the banjo. My sweetheart Marilyn Svitanic is how you say her name in Croatia, has taken me to Split, Croatia, and the Isle of Brač.
Been there. Years. Beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah, and I've written many a song there. In fact, I did an album dedicated to the great bard of Croatia, Tin Ujevic.
I have this album. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. And I mean, a lot of the lyrics on this, there's Tin Ujevic right there. He's kind of like the Allen Ginsberg and Walt Whitman rolled into one of the former Yugoslavia. And so I've written a lot of songs that have been really inspired. The music has almost nothing to do with Croatia. Besides, the Croatian music all sounds like Beach Boys to me. They're really into 4 or 5 part harmony and songs about the sea and their girlfriends. And
Croatia is very witchy, though.
Oh yeah,
very witchy.
We can talk about that later. So at one point, Marilyn had to come back home. And left me in Croatia. And she told me, she said, now on the Isle of Brač, where her father was from, that everybody is related. Everybody. It's kind of seriously an inbred situation there. I mean, people even changed their last names so that they could get married and stuff like that.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Right. It's a
small island, and you know, it wasn't like overrun by Americans until just a few years ago, and so she said, now, you know, you're gonna realize that a lot of these people all look like me or are related to me. Yeah.
So don't sleep with any of them.
Yeah. Well, okay. So there was a woman who was at the supermarket, who worked at the supermarket, who looked so much like Marilyn, but she was taller. And I was there for a while, and I was kind of chatting her up a little bit, you know, just to find out who she was and what she was about.
And?
Oh, the other thing is, I have my banjo there, and I sit on a porch, and I play the banjo, and the locals call me banjo. They just call me banjo because they don't know my name. They know I'm from New York, and they call me banjo. And I sat there and I wrote the song on the banjo, but I don't have one with me. The girl who works at the supermarket, in her last life, well, she must have been a goddess. With her long blonde hair and her sky blue eyes, looks a lot like you. I better watch out. She's probably your cousin. Silent, small, and everybody knows each other. The gossip's quick and thicker than peanut butter. Her dad's a general in the army, and her brother is the mayor. I better pack my bags. Probably a cousin. You can sing on the chorus with me. It's very simple. It goes, supermarket girl, supermarket girl. She's the supermarket girl. She's the supermarket girl. With my purple sneakers and my dumb sense
Wonderful, wonderful.
One thing that's really great is Marilyn's not the jealous type. She's like, oh, well, you want to leave me for some supermarket girl? Go right ahead. Have a nice life. So it's really funny because if I do a song like that, people go, oh, God, how does Marilyn feel about that?
It's reverse psychology, though. You know that.
Oh, that's okay. It works just fine.
But, you know, also,
they're just songs.
Like she said, whether this was the truth or not, maybe she was just telling you that everyone's related.
Oh no, there are a lot. You see it. You really do see it. It's like,
trying to scare you a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's pretty amazing. You know, I mean,
they have a really a prominent music school on the island of Split.
Island of Raj.
Is it?
There's
okay.
one in Split, and I went to that one.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because I think that the oldest students there are 15 or 16 years old. Marilyn's father went there.
Oh, okay.
I got involved in this whole...
Marilyn's an amazing artist, by the way.
She is.
Yeah.
So wonderful painter, abstract, and well, both. But yeah, I actually went to the music school for a little while, take some mandolin lessons.
Okay.
With Ivanka and.
I didn't get to go there when I was there, but I knew it existed. I was a very timid traveler until my 30s.
Hard. It's really hard. I mean, it's like, you know, I'm not the kind of person who walks into the room at all and breaks the ice. It's like I need an instrument to break ice, you know, and have a party. I'll sit over in the corner and play. I mean, I can't just walk in and just start talking to people. I don't have that chip, you know. That's like politicians are good at that. You know?
Do you think that that's held you back at all with music?
I'm a Gemini. I'm a real Gemini, and I lead sometimes a very solitary life. I mean, not solitary because I'm with Marilyn, who's also a Gemini, and together we lead a very solitary life. Here we've been, and which is great for your art because, I mean, as far as she needs time to paint, I just finished my 6th book. It's on John and Yoko, on plastic on Alabama.
See the little bit, the blurb in American Songwriter magazine about it.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I mean, I write books. That started when I was around 40 years old. I had a thyroid problem and I couldn't go on the road anymore.
Oh,
the doctor just said, whatever you're doing, I don't really want to know what you're doing. But if you keep doing it, you're going to be dead. And I was like, okay, I'm 40 now. I'm not, 25. And touring is a young person's sport unless you have...
So you toured a lot in your 20s and
from
30s.
25, 24 to 40, most in that time period. And then I got pretty seriously sick, and I had to figure out what else I was going to do. Well, I've always written. I've always been a writer, short stories, poetry. Wrote some articles here and there because I realized, I could make a little money.
Right.
So I wrote for some magazines, some music magazines. And when I hit 40 and I wound up, in bed and sick and not being able to go out and play gigs anymore for a while, for like a couple of years it took me. I decided I was going to write, I wanted to write an interest story on Rahsaan, Roland, Kirk. Not a magazine, not a music magazine story, but here's a guy that overcame so many hurdles and obstacles in life, being born blind, being black in the 50s and early 60s, and being a jazz musician who played 2 and 3 saxophones at a time, so everybody said he was a gimmick.
Wow.
So he had so many hurdles in life to overcome, and I realized he was just, I loved his music, but as a spirit he was purely Olympian to me, and it was almost part of my healing process. How did you
find out about him?
Rahsaan, my sister had this really cool boyfriend who, and they used to listen to Herbie Mann and Charles Lloyd records, and one day he brought over I Talk with the Spirits by Rahsaan, Roland, Kirk, which is a whole flute record. And at that point, when I was like 14, 15 years old, I was like, you know, flute, and all of a sudden the flute was becoming cool because Traffic and Jethro Tull,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, I was really annoyed and bored with everybody telling me to play some Tull all the time, you know? It was really kind of aggravating, but
Right.
I did love Traffic, and I did love, you know, I always wanted to do something other than play guitar. I can play guitar.
Yeah.
Everybody plays guitar, and you go
Yeah.
to a party, and it was like last night I went to see the Love and Spoonful show, and there's 6 guitar players up on stage. Oh, really? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
come on, you know. There's a Gibson electric mandolin from
We're going to hear that next.
from 1950s, you know, from the 1950s. Use something else. Expand the palette. Expand the palette. That's what Brian Jones was teaching us, you know, in rock. He expanded the palette of the sonic palette in rock. He played marimba, he played sitar, he played, you know, all these different instruments. And man, that made me buy the Stones records as much as anything by Mick and Keith. It really did. And, you know, so that was always a big thing. But you asked about traveling before. Because, like, it seems that almost everywhere I've ever been has been because of music.
Okay.
I don't have much money because of music. Right? And so usually I need somebody to pay me to go somewhere.
And do something.
And do something.
Yeah.
And that's how I like to deal with it anyway. I want to go play music. So I've been really lucky in that I've played in Morocco, I played in Spain, I played in England, I played in Germany. With TriBeCaStan, we played in Czech and Russia and Amsterdam. So I had a world music band called TriBeCaStan. I don't know, 6-7 years or something like that, and we did like 5 albums, and it was a really interesting project. Part of it was, at that point I was had grown tired of delivering lyrics, because my lyrics are, usually when I play live, I like to play more upbeat, happier, cheerful, healing, make people leave feeling better kind of music because of the state of the world and all of that. And so, and then after a while you start feeling like a comedian. Yeah, I'll be here all week.
Yeah,
and you know
that could happen for sure.
Yeah, and so I got really tired of that. And to me, folk music, which is such a dirty word for so many people, that's because they only look at a certain part of folk music.
Exactly, which is why I didn't want to call myself a folk musician for a long time.
It's death.
But then,
you know?
but now I really embrace it.
Don Cherry was
like
a folk musician.
Yeah.
Don Cherry played
Of
folk
course.
melodies from all around the world and
Very
brought that
expensive.
into jazz. And the only way that I knew that I could ever play jazz, which is another dirty word, was that if I learn these folk melodies, these kind of African folk melodies, or Irish or Middle Eastern or Eastern European on the flute or the mandolin, I can improvise off that.
Yeah.
I didn't learn the language of bebop. I never learned the bebop, the jazz language. I learned what Don Cherry and Yusef Lateef and Roland Kirk and the Art Ensemble of Chicago, they were drawing a lot of their repertoire from folk music.
Right.
Of different origins.
Traditions.
Right.
World traditions.
Exactly. And I realized, see, TriBeCaStan, the full title of TriBeCaStan at first was the TriBeCaStan Folklorchestra. Because we were playing folkloric music.
Right.
And we were improvising on it. And so it's like, and I had that idea. Do you know those records by Taj Mahal when he went world music, like in this, I think that was, right?
I have one of
Yeah,
those records
like
in my
Mo
collection.
Roots and Music Keeps Me Together, and he had this kind of, you know, Caribbean, like small orchestra, like with a soprano sax and steel drum.
I never considered him traditional blues music. He was very like drawing from
a world musician. He was a world folk musician, and this was a huge influence on me. In fact, I have an alto flute, and the reason why I got that alto flute was because of the guy that played with Taj Mahal on Cajun Waltz. I heard that. I was like, oh my God, what a sound. So Taj and Don Cherry were two of my main influences for
folk music.
Yeah, and for expanding the vocabulary of folk music. And I met this guy who was an instrument collector and a wonderful dabbler who I call it doing knife tricks. I can throw a knife that way, and I can do it sideways, and I can do it into the ground or into the tree, and you learn these little forms on these different instruments. And that's what my partner Jeff Green did really well in TriBeCaStan, and that's what I do to a certain degree. And then I started feeling like I was getting way too spread thin, because in TriBeCaStan every gig was moving day. Every gig was moving day. It was like the Art Ensemble of Chicago. We'd have 25 instruments up on the stage, or 20 instruments on the stage, and it was like keeping them all in tune and setting it all up. And nobody would ever have us open for them because it took we took over the stage. So. But there was it was a really good project in that we had a lot of great guest musicians.
Now, was that the first time in an ensemble that you did spontaneous music that was improvised?
No. What happened was I was in Milwaukee when I moved there to finish my first album in 1986, Violent Femmes, who I really admired. And I worked with Violent Femmes.
My ex-husband discovered them.
Oh.
I'll have to tell you that story.
Oh, so Violent Femmes were, I wonder if I know your ex-husband. Anyway, Violent Femmes, I saw them at Folk City in the early 80s when they were like...
Do you know about the Metropole Theater?
In New York?
No, in
Milwaukee.
Yeah. That's from the 80s.
Okay.
Anyway,
yeah, well, no, this was the 80s too, but I saw them in New York. A friend of mine called me from Milwaukee, said, you got to go see this band.
Yeah.
It blew me away. I walked up to Brian Ritchie, the bass player, afterwards, and I said to him, what are you listening to? And he went, Sun Ra, Nick Drake, Captain Beefheart, all the shit I was listening to. And we were kind of dressing alike in these weird, we were both kind of dressing like Don Cherry or Pharoah Sanders or some kind of Afro...
The white version.
Afro jazz musicians from the early 70s. We were kind of off on that.
And the look has not changed.
No, it works. And so anyway, so I moved to Milwaukee in 1986, and you asked me a question, and now I'm forgetting why I even went off on the Violent Femmes. And
I asked you about, was it the first time with your ensemble in New York that you did spontaneous improvised music?
So I made a couple albums there, and I was singer-songwriting, and I was doing a lot of gigs. In 1989, I probably played more gigs in 1 year because my second album was on Chameleon and was well distributed, and I could work. The record was in record stores, and I could go out and work, and so I was doing a lot of songs that had punchlines, like that song, Supermarket Girl. It was cute, clever, witty, and whimsical were the two words that dogged me everywhere I went. And I got kind of tired of delivering the lines, and I was always listening to Yusef and Rahsaan, Roland, Kirk, and Don Cherry and Ornette Coleman, who I got to know later on in life, which was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. And I was like, there's got to be more to making music than this. And I got this 4-string Fender electric mandolin from the 50s. Really great electric mandolin. And I didn't like the sound of it tuned normally. And I started goofing around with the tuning, and I put it in this open tuning, and I wrote like 15 songs like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes
it's all it takes.
The door just flung right open, and I wrote all this new music. And I didn't know who I was going to play it with, because most of the guys I knew weren't really thinking in that way. And somebody said that, oh, there's this band called MCME, the Milwaukee Creative Music Ensemble, the Milwaukee's answer to the Art Ensemble of Chicago. And they were all young kids, and they were playing like weather report, stuff. And I went to see them, and they were great musicians, and they could really jam. And I walked up to them and I said, I got this electric mandolin, and I'm sort of playing these Indian tunes and these gypsy tunes and stuff like that, and I'd really like to play with you guys and record some stuff with you guys. And they were like, oh, we thought you were a folk musician. I was like, I can do that.
Yeah.
But so I got with these guys, great soprano sax player Jason Todd, and a record scratcher from a band called Wild Kingdom, and Tom Edler, who lives up in San Francisco, great bass player. Anyway, I got with these guys, and right around that time, I was reading Derek Bailey's book called Improvisation. Derek Bailey, the brilliant British avant-garde guitarist, had a book on improvisation. He interviewed a lot of people, and there was one thing that completely blew the door open in my mind in that book. And that was Don Cherry was talking with Steve Lacy, the great soprano saxophonist, and he had gone to see him over in Paris, and Don says, let's play, and Steve says, well, what song do you want to play? And Don says, let's play. And Steve says, well, what key do you want to play? And Don says, let's play. And Steve says, well, what's your criteria? And he says, my criteria is simple. Is this shit dead or alive? And with that, the big gust of wind just blew the door open in my head. And that was my criteria. Is this shit dead or alive? And
what does that mean to you exactly?
That means, that means come see the illustrious ancestors, the band that I'm working with now. Because we don't know what's going to happen to you. Okay, I bring in some written bits here and there that I read, and mostly I'm just turning to Willie Aaron or Dave Sawyers, who's on bass, and Perry Austrian on drums, and Joel Martin, who plays pedal steel guitar, and sometimes when the wind's blowing in the right direction, we have Victor Krummenacher from Kemper Van Beethoven playing like spatial guitar stuff. And it's like, give me a vamp. Give me a vamp, and I'll fly with it. So I can start reading.
I saw it.
It was
awesome.
Start reading, or sometimes I take song lyrics from completely different forms of music and start using those, or I pick up a flute would be good with that, or a sitar is going to work here, or whatever it is. So this has been...
It's in the moment.
And every show has been completely different.
Yeah.
And that has been a true godsend for me, to find the chemistry of the musicians that they know what to do.
Yeah.
They're just gonna take it, and I can just fly with it. Now, I love singer-songwriting, and I love arranging music, because I arranged a lot of the music in TriBeCaStan. But after a while, I was just being a traffic cop up there. I wasn't even playing very much mandolin, which is like my main instrument.
Can we hear like a song with the mandolin?
Yeah,
it's out of the
song,
site here, but it's over here, and we plugged it in.
Yeah, the song I was going to play it doesn't really show off my mandolin bit,
Okay.
But it's the title song for my last album. It's
and
just that I thought we were talking about songs here, so I thought I might as well play one that really means something.
Do you know JT?
Morning.
Yeah.
Hi, JT.
JT's watching.
Hey, man. We'll see you down in San Diego real soon. Right.
Charlie Hewitt from Mississippi's watching. My friend Chuck Roberts is watching.
I think I have a little cafe. And Okay, so this song was written in bed in Croatia. I've gone in and out of health scares since I'm 40, and I wound up really sick on the Isle of Brach. I was by myself. This was Marilyn had to go back to America, take care of her father, and I wound up really sick, and I wound up in a hospital. And this woman who was a dressmaker, Maya, if you're out there listening and watching, because I know I tagged you, she looked after me and made sure I stayed alive. And I went down to like 118 pounds, and and I couldn't even pick up my mandolin. I couldn't even hold the mandolin. I was like, I couldn't press the strings down. I was really like weak and sick for about two months or so. And she said to me, she goes, you know what's happening is that a new album is boiling inside of you, and eventually it's going to come out. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. You know, speaking of witchy, that's kind of cool. I wonder, you know, what that's about. Also, being a mandolin player, my favorite keys have usually been G and D, and sometimes A. I like you like the open strings on a mandolin because it doesn't make much sound if you're playing closed strings. But after that illness, I also found that my voice changed a bit. And now I'm playing everything from G, I'm playing an F now. And it's like, man, F is a great key. Don't write off F, especially if you're a mandolin player. I heard that Bill Monroe used to play it. So anyway, so this was like, I had gone to Italy, and I was in Campello. I played in this little town square. It was just, I felt like I was in a dream. There was a church behind me, and the moon was up there in the sky. And this was the first night that I ever saw the tarantella danced in front of me, like live. I'd never seen a live tarantella before, and the delirium and the energy from it. So that happened before I got sick, and I had that kind of in the back of my head. And I was missing my sweetheart like crazy. The girl with the red hair and the red dress is dancing. She's dancing in a trance on a hot July night while the drummer is a-pounding out the poison that burns through his veins. He caught from a spider bite under the full moon. They played for some spare change in a little town square where I met you. Outside the museum, the tourists have gathered. They wait patiently for the time to come for the guards to throw open the vaults of a culture that's only a shadow of what it once was. What good is Picasso, Pollock, or Rothko when you're an ocean away? Well, I wanna know, where does the time go? 'Cause it feels like forever. Like the song of a siren as my little boat washes ashore. What did I say? I wanna know
Kruth.
Thanks for singing with me.
Oh, well, my pleasure. I'm learning from you because immediately I'm like, inside.
Oh.
You know, I don't know. I don't want to mess up your beautiful song.
I like to pull everybody in all the time, and sometimes it wasn't a good idea. But anyway, the mandolin has always been this like funky thing for me, like. Big black crow, black as an undertaker's coat. Big black crow, black as an undertaker's coat. Oh, honey, you're the ancient raven, the bird who haunted Edgar Allan Poe. You can go minor. My parents were wondering, where the hell is this coming from? I mean, you know, we have a gypsy living upstairs.
So, you have the gypsy spirit, yes.
So yeah, I love the mandolin because it allowed me to express a whole different thing, you know. And I mean, I love the guitar too, but you know, there's so many great guitar players out there. And I was never like a real lead guy. I worked at it for a while, but I found that the open tuning of the fifths was much more passionate for me, you know? Being able to play those kind of funky, swampy, New Orleans-y kind of things, and then boom, right into like, you know, Hungary and gypsy kind of thing. It was like, wow, I could just, you know, take it into that. But I've never fit into any, I was always too rock for folk, too folk for rock, too jazz for rock, too folk for jazz, to whatever it is, whatever these categories are. Yusef Lateef used to say everything should just be autobiographical, and not autobiographical, what do you call it? Alphabetical. Everything should just be alphabetical, and forget these marketing terms, because he just saw it as a form of putting black musicians on the plantation, as far as segregation with jazz. Jazz departments used to be downstairs or upstairs in music stores,
Right.
So those guys had that to fight with, where, and folk was always next to blues and jazz. So you always had to go, at Tower Records in New York, you had to go upstairs or downstairs. It was never on the same floor as rock or pop,
Well, we have time for one more song.
Oh.
Do you want to read something or do something?
I didn't
or
bring anything to read.
You want to play harmonica?
Yeah, I think I got this harmonica here.
Do you want to play both, all three at the same time? I don't know.
Well, I didn't bring a rack, but
I have one right here if you want.
I'll just play this one.
Okay.
There have been certain people that have opened doors for me in life, and they're always like, on one hand, you can count the people that have really done something for you on like one hand. And one of the guys, hi Caitlin if you're out there, and Megan, one of the guys that really, I sort of could feel my way through the music. And not only that, 3 days after I met him, or 4 days after I met him, he took me to Boston Symphony Hall to play with him. And that's Erich von Schmidt. And Erich von Schmidt, I was a teenager, I got Bringing It All Back Home by Bob Dylan, and on the cover he's holding a bunch of album covers, and one of them was the folk blues of Erich von Schmidt. I went out, I bought all of those records. My mother was like, well, John, I didn't know that you were a Lottie Lania fan. And it was like Lord Buckley was on there, and Robert Johnson was on there. I learned a lot from that. And So dig deep. And so Eric Vaughn kind of became this guy that I really liked. And then I eventually got to meet him. And within days, we played together a couple times. He had a gig playing at Boston Symphony Hall with Tom Rush and Mimi Farina and Joan Baez and all these great people. And he took me to play with him on the stage at Boston Symphony Hall within a week or so of meeting him. So he became like my adopted father or uncle or whatever. And I'm going to sing a little tune of his.
Okay.
With some words of wisdom in it. My music or my interpretation of it. And it's... You get old, you get wise, you get old, you get wise, you get old, you get wise, you get a great big bag of eyes. Don't you run, run, run on cement, no, no, don't you run, run, run on cement. Don't you run on cement, ow, your pretty little legs will get bent. All right. You don't want to eat chop suey with a knife, 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 and a fork. No, 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 no. You don't want to eat chop suey with a knife, knife, and a fork. 'Cause the knife's too long, honey. Oh, the knife's too long, sugar. Oh, the knife's too long, and the fork is much too short. Dig my grave with a Hershey, Hershey bar. Come on and dig my grave with a Hershey, Hershey bar. And lower me down easy. Come on and lower me down easy. Well, lower me down easy with a great big almond joy. All right. You get old, you get wise. You get old, you get wise. You get old, you get wise. You get a great big baggie, great big baggie, a great big baggie.
Yay!
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Time goes by so fast when
In
you have
the
someone like
words
John
of Eric
Kruth.
Von Schmidt.
So, any last words to people out there in live stream land? You're playing now. Have you played the Sun Space gig yet?
Yeah, that just happened. It was such a cool place. I
heard about it.
Space.
I wasn't able to go.
Oh,
but
go!
My friend
Try
Rahsaan
to get
Stewart
a
played
gig
there.
Oh, Rahsaan's really cool.
Yeah.
I like his
So
sound.
I've been maybe I'll play there sometime. But anything
Okay.
coming up or
Not right
anything?
now. I'm supposed to go back to New York for a bit and get a few things back in New York. But I was gonna say, you know what? I always meet people that say, "Oh, I used to play some guitar. I used to play some piano," and I go, "Oh, are you retired? Did you retire?" No, but and it's like, personally, and I'm sure you feel this too. I don't know how I would get through this world. I want to run over and grab your globe.
I just got that. Yeah, this is the first time it's been used, unfortunately, but I did just get that globe.
I don't know how I would get through life in this world without playing music. Whether you're just playing at home for yourself on a piano or a ukulele or a mandolin. My friend Don Julian has a slogan: mandolins heal the world. Heal yourself. I do it through music, you do it through music. And if we can heal ourselves a bit, hopefully we can counteract the madness of the world.
Word. Thank you.
Thank you,
That does
Cynthia.
inspire me. Every week I'm inspired by learning about someone that I No, I mean, I know you a bit, but it's like I don't really know you. We've never had this long of a conversation. And so it's like that with a lot of people that are on the show. And they're in the community, but we don't always get to talk. And it is very inspiring. I'm
on Facebook. I don't know. My website became a dating service in Germany.
I noticed that.
I got to get it back and start it all over again. JohnKruth.com became a dating service.
Don't go there because it's not him.
And you can find me on Facebook. I'm on that way too much.
Facebook.
And I also have a catalog of all my albums and books because I have like 6 music books. I have like 5 poetry and short story books, and I got 11 albums. And you can contact me
if you just Google John Kruth and music, you will find all this.
Amazon, a lot of stuff.
It's all there on the interwebs. But thanks again for tuning in. Good stuff, says JT. Yes.
Yeah, I'll see you soon, JT. With Cindy Lee Berryhill, we're doing a show together down in San Diego.
I heard she was awesome. She's great.
Yeah, she is.
And you can go to the Music Emerging website. I'm about to release a new blog piece on my experiences.
Cynthia's wonderful. Check her out if you haven't.
Yes, I'll be playing on Thursday in Seal Beach.
Oh.
So Bogart's coffee shop.
How is it?
Bogart's of Humphrey Bogart.
Oh.
Named after him. And I'll be hanging out with Aunt Gertie and my friends Michael Ubaldini. And the Pollen Collective will be playing. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're in Seal Beach on Thursday, the 5th, come out and see that. Go to my website, cynthiabrando.com, musicemerging.com. Next week we have my friend Nalini for International Women's Day.
Oh, wow.
We're going to celebrate that and have a chat about lots of things.
Have a go.
As usual. Have a go. Like you said, have a go. That's what I do all the time. I mean, even if I'm just speaking to someone, it's like, okay, I'm going to have a go at this because I don't know what's going to come out.
That's beautiful.
All right. Have a good Sunday.
Bright moments, y'all.
All right. See you guys. Bye.